welcome back to the Outside Line and Single Race Mode, the series that isn't a series at all, where we jump in a game and go for a race, or as is the case today, a series of races, just because I fancy it. Today we're in Forza Motorsport 2. This was the first Forza game I ever played, and I got it back recently because I really wanted to play it again, so I'm going to give my thoughts on what it's like revisiting this game, how much of it was nostalgia, and how much of it holds up. Lots of people say Forza 3, Forza 4, those are the best games of the Motorsport series, but Forza 2 I think holds up quite strongly. Now, this is the first video I've done on the channel in a while. You may have seen the community post where I mentioned I was having some issues with my health. I wish I could tell you those were all resolved and we back, but sadly not. It's not serious though, nothing to worry about. I will explain what that means for me and the channel going forward, but for now, let's hop back into the menu and get started. So I've been playing this game offline in my own time. I think I've put in about 3 to 4 hours of racing so far, according to one of the menus. And what's interesting is, you may have seen I'm doing Gran Turismo 3 as a playthrough on the channel. Now by comparison, I think I've done around 16 to 22 hours as like a very wide estimate of how much time I've put into that game. And I actually feel like, by comparison, Forza Motorsport 2, I've got access to much more cars, a much wider variety of cars, a much wider variety of competitions, and I feel like I'm further in the game. The reality is, it's about the same for both. I'm about 13% through both games, but I feel like I'm making quicker progress through Forza Motorsport 2. One of the key differences in that might be the fact that there's no license tests in Forza Motorsport 2, and I'm certainly not saying that that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just merely comparing the fact that these two games have very similar career mode structures in the way that you have to, buy and sell cars and unlock certain competitions and use your money on upgrades. It's very similar, so it's interesting to see how they differ in terms of how you progress through the game. Now I'm jumping in the Porsche 9146. This is a competition where no upgrades are allowed, it's just the spec model, so as we check the opponents, everyone in the exact same car. The only difference I imagine would be if there's any tunes placed on any of the cars by the AI. I don't know if that's possible. I could do that if I wanted to, not going to, we're just going to head straight out with the car as standard. Another interesting difference between Forza Motorsport 2 and Gran Turismo 3, I won this as a prize car, and it's actually specifically useful for a competition later in the game. So far I'm finding that's less the case in Gran Turismo 3. Just a little look at the difficulties, and as you can see I've got everything off, which means I get an extra 50% in prize money. Another difference there in terms of how progression works is you have got a lot of money to play with in Forza Motorsport 2, but more on that in a little bit. For now, let's go racing. As you saw, the AI on their hardest difficulty in this game, which is hard, and I'm of the opinion that if you have a car where the performance index is level or within, I'd say 10 to 20 points, you should be winning these races. The AI are very much beatable. Whereas if you have it set to like anywhere between 20 and 50 beneath the best few cars in the competition, then you've got a really good challenge, and I find the races the most rewarding that way. Although, considering we're all in the same car with all the same performance index here, need to put my money where my mouth is now. I can't be faffing about in 6th place. This is only the second race that I've done of the recording. So I did one race before, which you saw a clip of at the start, racing the Stratos around Silverstone, but only finished 3rd in that race, so I'm still warming up. Look at me getting the racing driver excuses in already. But yeah, I think aiming to be like 20 to 50 performance index points below the best cars in the competition gives you the most rewarding races in this game, and that might point to another reason why I'm making quicker progress through Forza Motorsport 2 over Gran Turismo 3 is because there is no performance index of any sort in Gran Turismo 3, and because in that series, it's on the channel, I want it to be, good races. I don't just want to drive away with everything, or conversely, get hammered. I have to do a lot of guesswork, so only upgrading a little bit at a time, and then maybe doing a race and seeing it's not quite enough, so then I go back and upgrade a bit more. Whereas in this game, I can see a number of what I'm aiming for. I can see that, this car has a grade of D, certain performance index number, aim for about 30 underneath that by upgrading certain things about the car, maybe tyres, a bit of power, and go from there. And it suited me well. I've had a couple of races where I've still driven away with it. I think a lot of it depends on the track you're racing on and the certain cars, because sometimes you can just end up with so much power, even though you've got a lower performance index number, you can work around the shortcomings of the handling and still end up with a quite easy race. But then in other situations you can wish you actually had a bit more performance in the car and the numbers were closer together, because actually I find myself struggling in certain scenarios. It really does depend on the competition and the track. So far a solid start to this race, getting used to the 1970s Porsche. And as we start lap 5, we're trying to reel in the top 2. And like I said, I think the AI are very much beatable on hard in the same machinery. And sometimes it's just a couple of corners where you gain the time, and for Maple Valley Raceway, on this particular layout anyway, it's this left-hander coming up. You can see there's a little dab of brake from them, whereas you can very much angle it and keep your foot, or finger in this case, hard to the floor, and that means I can line them up for this right-hander, good under braking, down to second gear, and immediately we're on the tail of the leader. That's a chop across the nose there of the AI, just a little bit, and they are, when they're behind you, they do end up being quite demure. They don't fight too much, and they do kind of back out the way. I do wish they got their elbows out a little bit more sometimes, but they're not slouches. If they've got a run on you coming out of a corner, they will look to make the overtaking move, and they'll position their car based on where you are. But as you can see, I position my car based on where he is, angle through, and I've got him before the braking zone even arrives. We skip ahead to the end of the final lap, because after that point he wasn't fighting back. I'd got the move done and very much started to pull a gap, and we can see how fast I was in the best lap times of the final leaderboard. And as you can see, I was about 7/10 a lap faster, at least at my fastest lap, than the quickest car, which was actually third place, Evans. Also shout out to sixth place there, Giancarlo Esposito, making an appearance before he made it big in Breaking Bad. Good for you, Giancarlo, getting your bag to fund your passion. So we skip through. I think I've just leveled up. I was at the top of level 15, so we go up to level 16, and then even though it's my first race in the Porsche, because we're in a competition a bit further on, we go straight to level 2. It's another way that the game is very kind to you, in that with leveling up as a driver and the cars, you get access to a lot of discounts very quickly. Like the first few perks for leveling up are big discounts for cars in big regions. And that got me thinking, we're in the car dealer now. I'm, like I said, only 4 hours into the game, 14% complete. If this was Gran Turismo 3, I wouldn't even think to look at buying my dream car. I could in some scenarios, but I would probably be left with no money, and there probably wouldn't be that many competitions that it would be useful for at the time of buying. Whereas here, with my massive 35% discount, I could buy my dream Aston Martin DB9, and it wouldn't even touch the sides. Even more remarkably, I'm not even that far off buying a McLaren F1. The only thing stopping me is it's level locked. I think the McLaren F1 is locked to level 44, so stopping me progressing in other ways other than financial in this game. Again, not saying it's good or bad, just saying it's a different approach. We return to Silverstone, this time in the Porsche for the second race of the series, and this one proving my point from earlier about how it very much does depend on the track car combination. It took us well over half the race to be up into second and even fighting for the lead. But here, after one corner, we're up into second place. Even though the car is exactly the same, I do think there are slight differences in the tunes of the car, because I don't feel quite as quick in a straight line, but I definitely feel a little bit better through the corners. As you can see, we get much better run out of that one. And then we're temporarily helped as our opponent has a dip in speed as they change up to 4th, but then we change up to 4th and things equalise out, but we've still just got our nose ahead as we head into Brooklands. And much like racing through real Brooklands, we are jostling as we brake and accelerate at different parts of this long sweeping left-hander and into Luffield. I jump onto the racing line and we're into the lead. And like I said, different track, very different experience. Skip to the end and it's a very easy win this time. Much more comfortable than Maple Valley Raceway, and you can see again in the best lap times, a second quicker than Rossi in second place. Shout out to Giancarlo Esposito with another strong 6th, and bloody hell, Scarlett Johansson in 7th. I thought actors waited tables before they made it big. I didn't think, you know, racing 1970s Porsches was their thing. Anyway, well done to those guys. So we get another driver level, another car level, which means we unlock more things. We've got a relationship with Chrysler, whatever that means. It's just an advert, isn't it? And we get some more parts for the Porsche. The last race of the competition is at the shortened Mugello. This game I think is one of the first experiences I can remember of racing at Mugello circuit. I'd come across to the Xbox 360. I said come across, I still had my PlayStations, but getting an Xbox 360 was the first time I'd owned a console that wasn't a Sony PlayStation. I'd gotten the previous 2 PlayStations for Christmas. I bought the PS3 on launch day, which, just to give you a little idea of timeline, the PS3 came out in November of 2006. This game was released in May of 2007. But there was quite a wait on still for Gran Turismo 5. That wouldn't appear until November of 2010. There was a 6-year gap between Gran Turismo 5 and Gran Turismo 4. So obviously I've been comparing a lot to Gran Turismo 3, mainly because I've been playing it on the channel, but it's somewhat unfair to compare this and Forza Motorsport 2. Because, you know, Gran Turismo 3 came out in April of 2001 as one of the very early titles of the previous generation of consoles, and I know that the PS2 spent a lot of time alongside the Xbox 360 because the PS3 very much coming out after the 360 was delayed a little bit, but yeah, I am comparing what? Let's just replay that again, because I don't know if you saw that, but I just looked. What are you doing, sir? Let's move on. But guys, I don't care that, you know, it's 2007 or that we're in 70s Porsches. The lack of hands-free is not an excuse. Just stay off your phone. We're racing. Serious. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, so it does seem slightly unfair to compare the two, but just interesting because obviously they're doing similar things, and this was my first experience of playing a Forza Motorsport game. I never had the original Xbox, and I really loved the different tracks that it opened out. I loved the fact that it had a both physical and aesthetic damage model, and honestly, after playing this and Forza Motorsport 3, because even that would be released before Gran Turismo 5 would make an appearance, I must admit I was putting a lot of pressure on Gran Turismo 5. I wanted it to be basically like Gran Turismo 4, but including the advancements that we saw in Forza Motorsport with a damage model and obviously better generation graphics. I must admit I was ultimately disappointed with Gran Turismo 5 when it came along. I think I need to get that back and try it again, looking back. I also have a copy of Gran Turismo 6 which I never played, which I'm hoping to break out at some point and have a little mess around with. But yeah, Forza Motorsport 2 was a really strong title, and I loved it. I'm still going back through looking at Forza Motorsport 3 and 4, aligning my opinions on which I think is the best out of all of them, but this was just such a good game. It was just so effortless to boot up, get started, and then just get lost in. One of the advantages of having a lot of money and having a lot of open competitions is you never felt you got stuck anywhere. So you just had lots of options, you could flip between lots of different types of tracks and cars, and it just felt fresh whenever you were playing it. You could just easily pump hours into it because you just never got bored. You just have different things to do. Anyway, bit of an error at the start of that lap. Bad exit out of the final corner, so I had to very much rush past second place, and then I'd have to really get my foot down if I wanted to overtake the leader and complete this competition. As has been the case in the other races in this competition, the corners were my best bet. In a straight line, not got the most oomph, it seemed, despite it again being the same car. Carry a little bit too much speed through turn 1, but it's not too bad, we're closer. The fact is I know I can sweep through these corners a lot quicker. And we're going to maybe angle a move on the exit of this one. Although I might regret what I wished for. Earlier I said I wish that they got their elbows out a bit more. Here, well, he does just that. Just acts like I'm not there and decides, nope, no room for you. Fortunately, we get around the outside, we get the move done, and we complete the competition. I was slightly worried I was going to have to redo that one, but thankfully, we pull it out on the final lap. Ahead of Rossi and Evans, the usual suspects in the top 3. Esposito and Johansson in 6th and 7th once again. So, that's the Porsche 914-6 challenge, and I think we've won a GT3 car. Well, again, that is something I don't think you'd see this early in Gran Turismo 3, getting a GT3 car. That is going to come in very handy later on. Started to look about for a different competition, and I've got some cars eligible in the Class D Asian Championship. Have a little look at the opponents. The performance index of the top car is 394, 381 in second. So, what have I got in the garage? And again, this is one of the things I said from earlier that makes it a lot easier. I can just refer to the performance index of my cars, and without putting anything in it, the Mazda Speed Roadster seems perfectly placed to maybe have a go at this competition. 30 index points down on the top car, which is a Mitsubishi FTO. And we head to Tsukuba Circuit to see how we fare. I really like Tsukuba Circuit. A lot of fun. Very technical. This is the shortened version. Not that it's a particularly long track anyway. We absolutely fly out of the blocks. A great start, but need to adjust. Got a slightly different car, a bit more power, slightly different brakes. Trying to put the power down a little bit too early, spin up the rears, and the Mitsubishi's ahead. Like I said, 30 index points is usually the sort to have a good fight, and we're about to get one. In fact, I'm going to have to chase this Mitsubishi down if I want a chance at winning this race. So while I do chase this Mitsubishi, time to probably give you a little bit of an update about what's been going on. So if you saw the community post, you'll see I threw a pause on things on the channel. Basically, since March this year, I've been having some issues with my health, mainly to do with my head and ears, and it's not been pleasant. After a little while, it kind of went away, but then around the end of May, start of June, things started to get worse again. And when I went back to the doctor, because it had been such a persistent issue, they needed to refer me to an ear, nose and throat doctor. Unfortunately, that waiting list is about 5 months long, and I've kind of exhausted all my other options in the meantime, which isn't great. there is some good news within that, in the fact that I've had blood tests, an ECG, hearing test, and all of those they've come back with nothing. So in one sense that's great news, but it also means I still don't have an explanation or a solution for what's going on. So that's why I've kind of slowed things down. Fortunately, I've been given some medication to try and help, and it's starting to make me feel a little bit better. It's not solving the issue, but it is at least making me feel like a semi-functioning human being whilst I wait for that appointment with the specialist. So what does that mean for the channel? Well, I don't want to stop everything, because I love doing this, but obviously I need to pace myself, maybe not push as hard as I did before, and just base it on how I'm feeling. And it's been a bit up and down, but basically when I'm feeling good, I'll try and make videos and put them out, but I might be a bit slower than usual. Like I said, I've got a couple of sets of meds. One set of meds, though, I read the information for it. It says it's an antipsychotic, which I don't know how I feel about that. Not crazy about it. Please don't unsubscribe. But yeah, so they're helping at least in the meantime. So while I feel good, I'll make stuff, but it might be a bit more sporadic. So I appreciate everyone's patience. I've had a couple of messages and a lot of well wishes on the community post. I really appreciate that. Thank you very, very much. And yeah, as far as I'm aware, it's nothing to be worried about. It is just a bug to try and work out what's going on and just try and get it solved. But let's park that for now, as we very nearly got past the Mitsubishi coming out of the penultimate corner, but I managed to nail the line through the final corner. We've got a really good chance into turn one. Can we be the last of the late breakers? Pretty much, but we almost overshoot. We managed to do just enough so we can block off the Mitsubishi from diving under us and doing the old switcheroo. And we managed to finally get the move done after a very long chase indeed. And that's exactly why I love having the slight offset in the performance index, because it creates some really close races, to the point where I didn't feel safe even after I'd made the move. I'd have to continue to drive well to make sure I held on for the win. But we skipped to the end, and I have managed to hold on. But the time we crossed the line, it's about 1.5 seconds between us on the road. I do manage to get in a good lap, 48.999, about 6/10 quicker than our nearest rival. That was a good fight. I really enjoyed that race. Now, I wanted to do one more race, and ideally in a much faster car for a bit of variety. So I went back to the Amateur Cup races because I know there was a competition later on that needed a much higher performance car. And checking the opponents. Oh, what's this I see? An excuse to buy my dream car? Abso-bloody-exactly. We're going to buy the DB9 Coupe. This is my dream car, by the way. I would always want one of these. I don't know why I'm looking through the colours, because there's an option to have it in the classic silver. I might consider getting it in black, but no. Classic silver. It's the move. You know, I've looked into these now, because obviously they're, you know, a fair few years old. This one from 2005. And you can actually buy a used Aston Martin for 30 grand. Which is not, on finance anyway, completely out of the realms of possibility for me. That being said, it would also cost quite a lot to insure, and the parts to maintain it would also be painful. So realistically not worth it. One day, maybe, I'll own my dream car. Anyway, I'm going to have to put my performance where my mouth is now, because we are on the same performance index and in the same car as the top competitor in this competition. So, no excuses here. I should be winning this, based on my own performance metric anyway. As you can see, the other V12 Vantage in the room, our next nearest competitor, but we are the only A-class cars in this race. to the corkscrew for the first time. Obviously a little bit of adjustment as I've been driving much lower powered cars, need to get used to the power application, the braking and what the handling's like. And as you can see, I'm not quite dialed in just yet, thinking I could carry a bit more speed. Yeah. The penalty system in this game is interesting. You see I've got 8 seconds of penalties, but that's only applied to my lap time. So it only really affects fastest lap. So not much of a penalty, it must be said. Anyway, gap's under 2 seconds, we've got 3 laps. Let's get after the other DB9. No. 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 No! My fucking dream car. I mean, to be fair, this is probably what would happen if I actually bought one of these things. Apparently I want to mark the moment and get an image. My shattered dreams. Okay, one more attempt. Got my eye in. Let's not crash the dream car. Much better on the throttle this time. Past the V12 Vantage much quicker. And even though we are in the same car as our main rival, one of the things I loved about this game, one of the other things, was the fact that the drivers in this game, all the AI drivers, had their own careers, they had their own stats and their own little backstories, and I love that because it helped, it just made you feel like you were part of a racing world. You weren't just in a vacuum. You were taking on other people who also wanted to get to the top, and then you'd see the familiar names and you'd see their traits. I think M. Rossi, the Italian, was always one of the main level 10 drivers you'd have to go up against. In fact, I think that's who we're about to try and get past as we go to the inside. Oh, just a little warning tap there, just to let him know I was there. Anyway, funny story about Rossi. I always associated the name Rossi with being a good driver because of this game, and for years got him confused with the real life Alexander Rossi as well, who's currently in IndyCar. As I give Rossi another little tap, I'd rather not, because then I'd be wrecking 2 DB9s, and wrecking 1 was painful enough. Bit of an awkward shift down to first gear there, should have stayed in second to carry the momentum through, and I lose out on the lead of the race, but we're much closer this time. Now, earlier on the brakes, still not quite in, got my eye in with this car yet, but we're getting there. I mean, let's be honest, would you immediately take your dream car out racing? No. Very unrealistic scenario. Now once again we've got the run up the Rahal straight. We don't lose it on the bump. We're on the inside coming up to the corkscrew. We've got this. We don't got this. Oh my god. Okay. We're not in the wall. It's fine. Please change up. Jesus Christ. This, how is my worst performance in the car I love the most? Oh god. Still not sure on the brakes into 2. I clearly can't be trusted. Doesn't matter that a real life Aston Martin is 30 grand. This proves that I shouldn't be allowed. So we come to the start of the final lap, and I've still got a little bit of chasing down to do. Staying in second gear through that final turn. What's the gap going to be? 1.3 seconds. Not insurmountable. Come on, let's get it. Yeah, if you are still with me at this point, thank you so much for watching and watching this through. I really appreciate it, and I also appreciate your patience with me. I wasn't the quickest creator anyway, but obviously with everything that's going on, I'm even slower. But you know, needs must. Believe me, it's not because I don't want to. I'd love to be able to just crack on. Got lots of videos I want to do. In fact, we're going to be in Forza Motorsport 3 for a video very soon that I've already filmed for a very special reason, slightly different one for the channel, and I hope you'll join me for that as well. But yeah, thank you for your patience, thank you for your support, thank you for not just unsubscribing when you see I've disappeared off the face of the earth, and I appreciate it. But now, 2 corners to go. got to nail these 2 corners now. Hug the inside, don't carry the speed. Now, this is the perfect opportunity to the inside. Can I learn from my mistakes? Down to second, stay in second, run a little bit wide, and we tuck in ahead, and we've got the job done. Gotta say, I felt very good about this, so I do a nice celebratory slide across the line. And you know what? I managed to win the race without damaging my lovely dream car. I wish I could tell you I did that sound effect for comedic purposes, but nope. I just got f***ed up the... And on that disappointing bombshell, it is time to end. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this single race mode. I started this non-series so I could do more videos like this, and so far this is only the second one, so I'm going to dip in and out of more racing games that I'm most likely not going to do series on. I'm saving Project Gotham Racing for, because at some point I want to do a playthrough of that. But other games we might look into. Like I say, another video in the other Forza is coming soon, but for now, thank you for watching, and I will hopefully see you again very, very soon.